Alright, so welcome back to another fanfiction idea, and this one is actually kind of a pseudo-sequel to one I did a little while ago, and that is my Wrestling AU. Now, as you guys know, I'm not the biggest wrestling guy. I do have some knowledge, so, yeah, there's some, I do have some knowledge to wrestling, and I try to apply it here. I'm not like the Mount Vernon kid who has, tons upon tons of wrestling knowledge and history. But I did enough to warrant a sequel, and I was thinking about a sequel to this, but I wanted to do it differently. So, if you guys remember from the previous story, or for those who don't remember, or didn't see the video, basically what it was, it was told from the perspective of Anne and Sasha, who joined who basically got into into professional wrestling, but the catch was they couldn't be a tag team. They couldn't be a tag team. Their dream was to be wrestlers as a tag team, and Marcy got them in because she was a writer. And basically what happened was Marcy was like, yeah, I got you in, but you guys gotta have a rivalry. You guys can't be a tag team. It's not yeah, Sasha, you're gonna be a heel that's villain in WWE, and you're gonna be a babyface that's good guy in wrestling. So that was kind of the main crux of the story. But here we're gonna focus. This story is gonna focus on, I guess you could call it the other perspective of another version of a character in here. And basically this is going to follow Luz. This is Luz's story in here. In this, if you guys remember from the previous story, Luz was kind of like a Rey Mysterio kind of character, in that she was like a masked wrestler who went by the name Azura. That was her whole shtick, was that she went by Azura. She was a young female wrestler who was being mentored by Ida, who in this universe was a old generation wrestler. To put a comparison, she was like a female Mick Foley, and just destroyed her body her whole wrestling career, and now mentors Luz. And she's also in a relationship with Rain, Rain is a producer in the show, for the show, and Ida was the ex-wife of Stan, who is the CEO, head of the company, and he's also the Vince McMahon. Which I know some of you who are diehard wrestlers watching this video are yep, he would be, especially with all the shit coming out with McMahon now. Yeah, Stan is definitely Vince McMahon. You might as well call him Vince McStan or Stan McMahon. I stand by that, but I stand by that pun, by the way. It's not a good one, but damn it, I don't get many good puns. So this is told from Luz's perspective, and so think of it like season 2. So in this story, we get more about Luz, and Luz in here has always much like Anne, wanted to be a wrestler, but her mom never really liked the idea of her. She wanted her to have an actual job, and it's not her dad was a wrestler or whatever. No, her dad was not a wrestler. He was he died of he died of an illness, and Luz kind of, and that was the thing that they shared, was her in this continuity. Her and Luz and her dad really had a great bonding experience with wrestling, and that was what connected her. And her dream was to be a wrestler. Her dream, she tells her mom, the dream I always had was to get the championship belt and show off, bring it home to show Dad. I can still do half of that. In honor of his memory. But her mom was against it the whole time. But throughout the amateur circuit, Luz is just proving herself, going by the identity of Azura. Really getting into because let's be real, Luz would totally do a lucha libre thing. And kind of really play into that and have a lot of fun with it. And she would just go nuts with it. So Luz in here one day during her matches encounters Ida, and she's like, "Holy shit, that's Ida Clawthorne, the Owl Lady, aka the Wild Witch." She went through like much like how Mick Foley went, and again going to the Mick Foley like comparison in this continuity is that much like Mick Foley, Ida went through a bunch of identities. She started out as Ida, then she became the Owl Lady, then she became Harpy, then she became the Wild Witch. Well, actually, no, the Wild Witch, then the Harpy. And then went back to being Ida throughout her career. And during one night, when she's watching an amateur ring, she sees Luz fighting, and she's like, "You're good, but you ain't good enough." And she's like, "Yeah, maybe you can train me." And she's like, "Haha, no." And she's like, "Look, kid, this business will destroy you, either physically or mentally, and more often than not, both. So my advice, stop." And she's like, "No, I'm not going to stop. I want to be a great wrestler like you." And to which Ida goes, "Kid, did you ever see me in those old like when I was a wrestler before I retired?" And she's like, "Yeah, all the time." And she's like, "Did you ever see me win a belt or like a championship? I won matches. Yeah, I won matches, but I was never they never let me win a single goddamn championship or a tag team or anything. I was just a big boss fight for them. I was entertainment. I had great matches, but I never got the belt. I was just there to be there to get my ass kicked. And yeah, I won fights, and I'm probably going to be Hall of Fame, but like that shit that always stuck with me because even I was married to the goddamn CEO, and he still threw me under the bus every repeated time. So no, I am not going to I'm not going to help some kid who is going to who is going to suffer the same fate, because that is the fate of a majority of female wrestlers. So I'm not going to let you do this. And Luz just keeps pestering her until finally Ida's like, "Fine, I will teach you, I will get you in, but you do the work. You are going to do the work. And I am going and like she says, like, I'm not going to be there when you need a shoulder to cry on, but obviously that's going to change because the wrestling industry can be very dark, and that's kind of what the crux of this story was to kind of really show that, like, much like in Owl House, where Luz's whole perspective of, like, magical girl stuff is completely turned on its head. In this continuity, it's kind of the same way, where this version of Luz's perception of wrestling is completely turned on its head. Because while I don't know much about wrestling, I am well aware that I am very well aware that it is a very dark place, especially for women. Like, in the early, like, WWF, WWE, WWF or WCW careers in wrestling, it was a very dark place for people, and even worse for women. It's changed now, but, like, there's still some gunk there. Again, going back to Vince McMahon. Anyway, but that's a conversation for someone better qualified, namely Chris. But anyway, getting back to the story. So Luz, with Ida's mentorship, gets into the professional wrestling, and that's where she meets Amity, who in here is a heel, and with her twin siblings Edric and Emra, who are kind of like a version of like what was their names? Paige and her brother. That's it. It's very much like Paige and her brother. So it's kind of like that dynamic, but they have Amity in there, and they are more or less heels. But throughout the story, Luz, like, again, falls for Amity and Luz fall for each other. But the problem is that Luz is a hero. Amity's still considered a heel. So constantly, Amity and Luz, because they have to hide their relationship. They go to Stan and the other higher ups, and they're like, "Stan, we want to have an open relationship. We want to, we're tired of hiding. Can you just let us be a relationship? Can we just have a relationship in peace? Can you just let Amity heel turn? Can you just have her be a good guy? And Stan's like, sure, whatever, yeah. But there's a catch. You see, in having Amity switch sides so she can be with Luz out in the open, someone's got to be a heel. Like, the heel to the good to bad ratio's got to, like, Stan wants to have a good to bad ratio counter. There needs to be balance, is what I'm saying. So in this story, what happens is that Anne gets approached and is like, hey, you're gonna turn heel. And she's like, what? Yeah, you're gonna turn heel. Like, they tell her, like, you're gonna turn heel. Not only that, but Marcy is gonna be part of the new team we're putting in. It's like, excuse me, team? And she's like, yeah. And like Marcy tells her, like, yeah. I've been training. Like, I've been learning moves and all that. Like, I'm gonna be a wrestler with you guys. You, me, and Sasha are gonna be a team. We're gonna be a villain team on the show. She's like, excuse me? You make me a villain? I mean, you make me a hero, you make me fight my best friend on a daily basis, and then you make me go back just to be a villain, and now you're gonna be... It's kind of like with Marcy's whole thing is like a reverse David Arquette, where Arquette started wrestling, and then he went to writing, and then back to wrestling. It's like that. Like, imagine Marcy's like David Arquette, which is not an insult. I really like Arquette. But it's like that. So yeah, that's the trade-off, is that Amity gets to be with Luz out in the open and even start a tag team with her, but the thing is that Anne has to go villain. So that's kind of the trade-off in the story. So as for other characters, and if this does well, maybe I'll do like perspectives of like the whole story of like perspective of other characters. Like, again, in the first video I talked about like what Dipper and Mabel are like. They are wrestlers here. I talked about like how Wendy is like Becky Lynch. I talked about like how Sashi is like Sashi from Pen Zero Part-Time Hero is like a combination of Asuka meets Asuka and Liger from a classic Japanese masked wrestler. You have Star, who's kind of like takes a lot of inspiration from Maki, for all the AEW wrestlers out there. Pen from Pen Zero, he's kind of like a CM Punk kind of wrestler. Toffee is like Undertaker or Sting. He's like the old wrestler who is like still like he is too old to be doing this, but he still keeps doing this. And as one of my friends Cody once said, he's like a locker room leadership kind of deal, even though he is a heel out in the open. So yeah. Anyway, so the whole setup, like going back to that real quick, like I'll jump back to that, is that the setup for how Amity switches sides and joins Luz is that Luz gets set up as a handicap match. Like there's a running story arc that there's beef going on between the Blight clan, the Blighted as they call themselves, and Azura. And Azura basically challenges them all in the open to a 1-on-3 handicap match. And Amity, like, they have it like she's like conflicted about all this throughout the story, and then at like WrestleMania, the big event, like a big wrestling event, it's a 1-on-3 match, and however it goes like, all right, it's going to be instead it's going to be 2-on-3, and then it's revealed that Ida, like Azura, says like, I got some help. Like, it's not gonna be 1-on-3, it's gonna be 2-on-3. And then Ida's music starts playing, and it's like, and everyone's like, "Bah God!" Like Boone from Pen Zero, who's like our announcer. He's like, "By God, it's Ida! The Owl Lady is back after a 10-year retirement. She is back." So Ida in here comes out of retirement for one match for this special event. So the match goes like the match goes as it is, and throughout it, like just as like Ida's down, loses down, about to get pinned, Amity grabs a chair and just whacks Emra in the back and knocks her off from being to keep her from pinning Luz. Helps her up, and the two of them take down the twins, and they pin, and then they win and Luz wins the championship, and she gives it to Ida. Like, she gives it to Ida, and Ida is just in tears by the end of it, because now she's finally got her championship. So, yeah. There you go. Also, if you're wondering, where's Lilith? I forgot to mention Lilith throughout the whole video, is that Lilith in here was a wrestler like Ida, but she kind of went to the writing staff. Like, she went to the writing staff and all this. But anyway, so so there you go, guys. You guys tell me in the comments below, what did you guys think of this? Just comment below, let me know. And if this does well, like if this gets enough hype, I'll do like maybe a few more. I'm putting all that wrestling knowledge to what I have to here, so I'm really curious to see what the diehard wrestlers say about these. That's the ones I'm most excited for. But anyway, as always, if you haven't already, hit the link below, head on over to my Patreon for exclusive content, and if you have the 4th tier, you can send me requests for videos to put here on YouTube. Other than that, I'm Mr. Multiverse. I'll see you next time in the Multiverse.